Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Michael Lofton Show on Reason and Theology. Hope everybody's having a great Sunday. Wow, looks like I just made international news. I did not expect it. I am just in shock. I finally made it to an online publication that I've admired before. I've even offered my services to them as a contributor. I've offered those services, and finally made it to their platform. I started this channel here on Reason and Theology 2019, January of 2019, in a little tiny apartment in Monroe, Louisiana, in the middle of nowhere, with obviously no subscribers. Right after completing my graduate degree in theology, in the midst of raising 3 kids while working on the degree. Started the channel right after that. And I finally kind of reached a point where I think this channel, it has some relative success so far on YouTube. So I've kind of reached that point, and now I've made it to international news, specifically Catholic World Report. It's an online news source, if y'all aren't familiar with it. Online website, published by Ignatius Press. So one of the largest Catholic publishing companies out there. This is its online news website, Catholic World Report. I've long admired them. Again, offered my services to them before, and now I finally made it. I actually want to show you something. Again, due to their affiliation with Ignatius Press, let me show you one shelf of my library. One shelf here. And this is not all of them, but you can clearly see a ton of Ignatius Press books, and I have more. They half of the bookshelf ends right here, and so it just continues to go after that. But there you go, like a ton of Ignatius books. And so when I heard the news, I made it to their website. I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. But then I go and click on the article, and gosh, I made it evidently in a way that I didn't really expect. I didn't really think I was gonna show up on their website in this way. Let me share my screen so you could see what I'm referring to. The website here shows Lofton's YouTube straw man by Dr. Ed Feser, an article that Feser posted on his blog a few days ago that I've already responded to on this channel. And they reposted this. Looks like last night, right before midnight, the best that I can tell. Feser then goes and sends it over to them. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Because here what I noticed is I'm taking a lot of heat for defending the faith. I mean, if you're going to defend the faith these days, you're going to defend the Pope, you're going to take a lot of heat. And I thought, oh, well, maybe when I first heard the news that I was on their website, I thought, well, maybe they're talking about this. But no, evidently I made it in a different way. And what I noticed here is right there on their website, they accuse me of libel, and which is what Feser accuses me of. And then they produce that. So they, as well as Feser, are accusing me of libel and defamation. Defamation more generally, libel specifically, even though libel would be something written and I didn't write it. I spoke it, but whatever. But it wasn't even libel anyway, so it wasn't slanderous. Well, they promote the charge that I engaged in libel, engaged in defamation. And so, yeah, I made it in a way that I did not expect. Let's read actually that section so you can kind of get a feel for what Feser is doing here. He says, in reference to me, how does this play out in Lofton's case? Over the course of an hour, he, that is me, works through an article line by line, suggesting early on to his listeners that there is something weird or odd about it and hinting darkly that it serves an agenda. And what agenda is that? By the end of the video, it's finally revealed, which this is not accurate, by the way, but this is his telling of the video. To entertain talk about suspense in the magisterium, I think, is to prepare people to reject magisterial teaching, to prepare people to reject papal teaching authority, to use it as an excuse to ignore the papal magisterium. You'll note the ellipses here, right? You'll note that they didn't fully quote me here, because I specifically am talking about some who are using this, not Feser. And in fact, as Feser points out here, I specifically say Feser is not one of these people. He says, to be sure, he immediately tries to cover his rear by acknowledging that he doesn't know what Feser's intentions are specifically, but he insists that at least some people have this agenda, and is left scratching his head about exactly what my own intentions could be. The obvious insinuation, especially given all the heavy going throughout the video about how weird my article is that this is my agenda too, and that I'm being cagey about it. Thus does Lofton fold my article in a hackneyed narrative of a dark army boogeyman seeking by hook and crook to undermine Pope Francis. The insinuation is defamatory. And there you go. Catholic World Report continues Feser's previous accusations that I engaged in libel. They also are now promoting that on an international platform. Now, obviously, this is a false accusation. I've already responded to this in this video right here. Did Ed Feser just refute me? Not only do I respond to Dr. Feser's straw man response to my arguments, so I spent, in fact, 2.5 hours refuting the entire article that he wrote line by line. Why did I go to that extreme? Because I knew if I don't, what are people going to say? Well, you didn't address this. You didn't address this. You didn't address this. So I had to respond to his entire 5,100 word article and show that he was completely wrong. He did not accurately engage my criticisms of him, that is his theological content. He did not grapple with them sufficiently. He didn't even understand what I was actually arguing in some cases. Misrepresented me, strawmanned my position, and then accuses me of defamation. Now, I don't have a problem with somebody engaging my content and even strawmanning my content. That's going to happen. I mean, some people just aren't going to follow a theological argument for one reason or another in some context. I get it. Some people are going to misunderstand a person. Maybe I wasn't clear, or they're just not sufficiently they're not being careful when they read. I totally get some people are going to misunderstand a person's theological criticism. I don't fault Feser really for misunderstanding and strawmanning my theological position. But what I think is out of bounds is to accuse a person falsely of defamation. Now, again, I've already addressed this in depth in the video, Did Ed Feser Just Refute Me? I encourage everybody to go and watch it, because, again, the bulk of it, I focus on Feser's theological arguments in here. And I showed that they're inadequate and that he did not grapple with my criticism sufficiently. But I also tackle his accusation that I engaged in defamation. I tackle that directly head on, and I showed this is based on a false assumption of Dr. Feser, despite my own words that he just read to you. He just read to you that I am not judging Feser's motives and intentions. I'm just saying that some people use a suspended magisterium thesis to prepare the groundwork for undermining the magisterium. I said, I don't know what Feser's intention is. I explicitly said, I don't know what it is. I'm not going to judge his intentions, period. Not going to do that, because I don't know. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And yet he still says, despite that, he still falsely assumes, tries to read my soul, tries to read my heart, tries to read my intentions. And based on that false accusation, he accuses me of libel. Now, libel is written slander. Now, again, I didn't write what I said. I actually said it in a video. But libel is not only something that is immoral, that's gravely immoral. So if I committed libel, that's gravely immoral. I need to go to confession. So that's already a big accusation. But number two, it's also something that could require legal consequences. You know, if I engage in acts of defamation, I could be sued for that. So that's a massive claim that not only he makes, but then even after having been corrected on my show where I demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt that I did not defame him, but in fact, he's engaging in defamatory comments against me, Catholic World Report still decides to publish this even after I set the record straight. Even after they use their very, very large platform to target somebody who has a much smaller platform, who's doing his best to defend Holy Mother Church, and they target that guy, the guy who's trying to defend the faith, defend Holy Mother Church, and they target him with the defamatory accusation. I thought it was interesting because I thought, according to Catholic World Report, if you actually look at their website on the About Us section, I thought they had a commitment to truth. It says right here, the Catholic World Report offers an unwavering commitment to the truth in light of the gospel. Unwavering. And yet, they never contacted me to say, hey, can we get your side of the story? We're about to run a piece accusing you of defamation and libel. Can you maybe just kind of give us the other side of the story before we run this hit piece on you? Now, who's the editor there? Well, the editor is, again, belongs to the publisher is Ignatius Press. The editor here is Carl Olson. Now, Carl Olson, that's an interesting name. You know why? Because he's one of my friends on Facebook. And I thought, we're friends on Facebook. And so he could have easily reached out to me and said, hey, we're about to run this hit piece on you, accusing you of defamation. Can you just maybe, just for the sake of truth, can you give your side of the story just so that we can make sure we're not engaging in defamation against you? Because if, in fact, I did not defame Feser, which I did not, then his accusations, and he's made multiple, not just one, then his accusations, including the accusation of libel, is itself libelous, is itself defamatory. So for them to run this hit piece, again, didn't even grapple with my theological arguments, but I'm not so much concerned about that. That's fine. It's the run the hit piece with the defamatory comment. They could have taken that part out. What the editor, Carl Olson, should have done is said, okay, well, we'll run this piece. I mean, it's a theological critique. Nothing wrong with that. That's fine. Even if you're straw manning my position, I'm cool with that. That's fine. But it's another thing to include the defamation accusation. And what they should have done is just kept the part of Feser's article that limited itself to my theological position. Although the article would have been a lot shorter because he spends the majority of it engaging in all kinds of defamatory accusations. But they could at least taken that out and not accuse me of libel. Instead, they didn't do that, and they didn't even bother to reach out to me when they had a very easy way to do it. And yet they say they have an unwavering commitment to the truth. Well, Catholic World Report, you just engaged in libel. That's not the truth. Let's go through it real quick. Let me recap it, although I did it in depth already. Let me do it again. He says, how does this play out in Lofton's case? And then we read the thing where he only partially quotes me with these ellipses, you'll note. And then he says, well, yeah, Michael says he's not judging my intentions. He says that, but I don't really believe him. I'm still going to falsely accuse him. I can read Michael's heart, and Michael's just saying that I'm really just here to undermine the magisterium. And so Michael is engaging in defamation against me, and he labels it Lofton's libel. And yet it's all it all hinges on whether or not Feser has a soul reading ability. That he can actually reach into my heart and determine, despite my words, that I had an intention of accusing him of dissent against the magisterium, even though that's contrary to what I said explicitly. So he falsely assumes, makes a defamatory accusation based on that. I corrected him on it. And then he continued to spiral out of control on social media, adding more and more and more false accusations after that. All of which, again, I addressed last night on this show. I set the record straight. I asked him to consider retracting his defamatory comments. He doesn't do that. He says he's not going to do that. And instead, he calls on Catholic World Report to publish this detraction as well. And I want to show that he's using his connections, by the way, because here's one book, one of those Ignatius Press books. Look at that. 5 Proofs of the Existence of God, published by whom? Ignatius. Catholic World Report is the online version, if you will, or online publication owned by Ignatius Press. He uses his connections, his influence, to further spread defamation against me, even after having been corrected. Make of that whatever you will. But he says that I'm not worth engaging, I'm not worth responding to, and yet he has to call on his friends and their very large platforms to go and attack and issue a hit piece on a very small platform, and somebody who, according to him, is not really worth addressing. And I have to ask the question, well, why is that? Why does he have to go and use his connections here to do that? So, I mean, I have some questions here I want y'all to consider. Let me ask a few. Why is Feser engaging in these bully tactics? Why does he have to go and, instead of just apologizing, say, hey, I was wrong here, why does he have to go and use his connections with Catholic World Report to slander somebody that, again, according to him, shouldn't even be addressed? Seems like a bully tactic to me. He then says he won't even respond to my video where I showed that he engaged in defamation, and also I spent an entire 2 hours showing that he didn't even understand my theological critique. My criticisms still remain. He was completely way off, completely misunderstood me. He says, I'm not even going to engage any of that. Let me, in fact, show it to you. He says I'm not going to engage him, but yeah, instead what he'll do is he'll use his connections to a very large platform to bully me. That's what he's going to do instead of actually addressing the issues. He'll just use these bully tactics. Here's Feser, just posted it. Yesterday, Michael Lofton posted a second video about me of over 2 hours long, and he puts an exclamation point. Dr. Feser, your blog post was 5,100 words. It was obnoxiously long. It was incredibly pedantic and outrageously verbose. And I do a 2.5-hour video responding to it, because if I didn't, people would say, but you didn't address this, you didn't address this, you didn't address this. So I addressed the whole thing. And you're upset? Okay. And it seems that today he has now posted this third one. I didn't post the third one. I just made a highlight clip of the previous video. He didn't seem to even watch it. If he did, he would know it's not a third video. It's the same video. I just took a highlight clip from it. So thank you, Dr. Feser, for proving to the entire world you're not even listening to your critics. Whereas I, on the other hand, have been listening. I know you very well. I know your content very well. You don't know anything about me or my content, as I've demonstrated. So you're already at a disadvantage. And then you don't even listen to the response that is offered. You don't even listen to criticism. Whereas I've listened to your criticism. I read the entire 5,100 word article and responded to every single line. I'm familiar with what you wrote. I listened to your criticism. It was trash and it was defamatory. And I demonstrated that. And you didn't even bother to listen to it. And you just demonstrated that before everybody. As you say, this is a third video. It's not. It's the same video. He says, beyond my article, responding to his first defamatory video. So again, he's still continuing to accuse me of defamation, even today. So yesterday, the day before, and now today, 3 days in a row, still accusing me of defamation after having been shown to be wrong. He says, I have zero interest in Lofton, except you'll use your connections, your international connections, right? Or your connections to platforms that have international access and a very large platform. You'll use them to defame me. So you do have an interest in that, though. And no intention, he says, of commenting further, except for repeating the defamatory accusations. It appears he is lost in some fantasy that in objecting to his defamation, I have somehow defamed and bullied him and owe him an apology. I've demonstrated that, and he has not grappled with that. As you could tell, he hasn't even listened to it. Is that pride? I don't know what that is. Anyone who could talk such foolishness seriously, take such foolishness seriously, let alone go on about it in public literally for days. Dr. Feser, it's you who's been going on about it public for days. You're the one who's using your platform in multiple platforms now to continue to disseminate defamatory comments, and I'm just responding to it. Get your facts straight. Let alone go on about it in public literally for days. This is called gaslighting. Is manifestly beyond reasoning with. I'll leave it to him. Well, okay. All right. I don't expect Dr. Feser to really engage it because he's effectively has egg on his face at this point. He would have to come out and apologize for publicly engaging in defamation. And it seems that he's not going to do that. And, you know, at the very least, respond to the theological critique that I offered. He's not even going to do that either. He's not going to retract the defamation. He's not going to retract the theological, or he's not going to respond to my theological critique. But he'll use these larger platforms to continue to disseminate defamation. Very sad to see that. You know, I also want to point out the usual slanders on social media are just eating this up. They're jumping on it. And they're using that to slander me, of course. They're using it to say, see, not even bothering to listen to what I said. Just automatically assuming that Feser's right and that I'm wrong. Didn't even bother to listen. So the usual guys out there promoting all this slander, using it as an occasion to do it. And, you know, I can't say that I'm shocked to see that. But what I can say is this. What I've learned about this industry in the, about 4.5 years that I've been doing this, what I've learned is you have to stay the course. You have to do the right thing regardless. Whether people are praising you or whether people are slandering you. You don't listen to the praise and you don't listen to the slander. You just simply do what is right. Don't listen to the good. Don't listen to the bad. If somebody says a nice comment, I'll tell them thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, but you know what? At the end of the day, what if they're wrong? You know? So I don't listen to the praise. I don't listen to the slander. I just say, you know what? I'm going to stay the course and do what is right, no matter what. And that's what I'm going to continue to do, despite this. Continue to stay the course. Continue to call out corruption where it is. Continue to defend Holy Mother Church. Continue to call people to repentance and faith in Jesus Christ. Continue to call people out of the kingdom of darkness and into the kingdom of light. Continue to defend the truth, regardless of the cost. Stay the course. That's my policy. That's what I'm going to be doing. That's what I've done up until this point. This isn't going to change that. But I am curious. What would you do if you were in this situation? I had a number of people say, "Well, Michael, you just shouldn't respond to slander." Well, yeah, I get that. I don't respond to 99% of the slander made against me. I don't. I get it hourly, every single day. I don't respond to most of it. But when you have an international figure like Dr. Feser using his platform and now other platforms to bully you and slander you, it might be important for you to respond. Because if you don't, those accusations are going to continue to circulate, and they will circulate for years to come. And I'll never hear the end of it. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to let him get away with that. I'm going to respond to that. I'm going to respond to that, and I'm going to respond to his theological critique. So that's what I did to both. It seems like he's not going to retract it. Okay, well, I've said my piece. I've spoken my piece. And going to continue to stay the course, do what is right. But I do want to know, what would you do if you're in that situation? If you're being bullied by a much, much more high-profile figure who's using their platform and other platforms to defame you, to slander you repeatedly, multiple times, would you just let it go? Would you not respond? Would you let it circulate and fester for years? Or would you respond? I want to know your thoughts. I want you to put it in the comment section. So if you think, oh no, I wouldn't respond. Okay, let me hear that from you. If you think, okay, I would respond. All right, let me hear that as well. I'd love to hear more. But I also want to point y'all to the GoFundMe that I have there in the show notes. This is the way I make my living. And when people slander you, even when they're wrong, unfortunately, that has the result of people who don't look into the situation just all of a sudden canceling you and saying, I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to have anything to do this. And they stop supporting you. And that's already happened. Quite a few people have not even given me the time of day. They just immediately saw what Feser said, didn't listen to anything I said, and just automatically canceled me and said, we're done with you. Goodbye. Well, okay. So such people, all right, God be their judge. But this is my livelihood. So I ask that if you think that this is wrong, and also if you think that what I'm doing on this channel is good and productive and is helpful to souls, and you want to see it continue, then I ask that you consider that GoFundMe that I put in the show notes. Consider supporting me at that GoFundMe or patreon.com/reason and theology. There, you'll get access to extra content that's exclusive just for patrons, and you'll be supporting what I'm doing here on this channel. So if you've benefited from Reason and Theology in the past, now is the time that I need your help, because all of the people who are part of the cancel culture are just saying, yep, cancel them, have nothing to do with them. And so if you want to see this show continue to reach people with the truth and continue to call people away from the kingdom of darkness into the light, into Christ's church, into God's grace, if you want to see that, definitely consider supporting me. At the very least, pray for me. If you can't financially support me, I totally get it. Pray for me at the very least. Pray for the success of what I'm doing here at Reason and Theology. I ask that of you. In fact, I beg that of you. That's more important than anything else. So again, if you can't support me, that's fine. Just pray for me and pray for the success that God's kingdom would continue to spread through this channel and through whatever means he wants to use. All right, well, that's going to do it. I have all that stuff in the show notes. Go and check it out and go and watch the video. Did Dr. Ed Feser just refute me? You will see a thorough dismantling of Dr. Feser theologically and also of his libel, unfortunately. So go and check that out. I'll put that in the show notes. I'll leave you to it. That's going to do it, y'all. We'll see you later. God bless. Hey, everybody. Just wanted to tell you about my new free ebook, Church Chaos, Biblical Insights for Confused Catholics. If you are a confused Catholic and you're thinking about leaving the Catholic Church, or you're thinking about converting to the church, but you see that there's a crisis in the church and you're just unsure, this is the book for you. Again, it is free. Just simply go to reasonandtheology.com. You'll see a pop-up that comes up on your screen. Just simply click on it and you'll put in your email and it will provide you the free PDF ebook right then and there. Please check it out if you're confused about the situation in the Catholic Church today. reasonandtheology.com. Are you confused about how Catholic teaching authority works? With encyclicals, papal bulls, councils, and many other things, it's easy to get confused on what is authoritative and what is not. Fortunately, at maximusinstitute.com, I have prepared a course explaining the magisterium from A to Z. Visit the website and check out the course, Understanding the Magisterium, for more information. So Reason and Theology is growing as a channel. As a result, there's been a number of increases in production costs. So if you're benefiting from RNT, I ask that you consider supporting the channel. You can help out by contributing to the Help RNT Grow fundraiser on GoFundMe. You could also consider becoming a member on Patreon at patreon.com/Reason and Theology, or become a channel member right here on YouTube. With either of these options, Patreon or a YouTube member, you'll get extra access to patron-only content. You can also donate directly to RNT at PayPal if you prefer that option. And you can find links to all of these resources and ways to support RNT in the show description. God bless.